Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I'm doing my Week 6 wrap-up for the Read What You Own Platinum Challenge, where I'm going to read 100 books that I already own before buying another book, with some exceptions. In reality, this is a 500 book challenge, but I will deal with that greater number once I get to the end of 100 books. So what have I been reading this week? At book 26, I read the audiobook version of Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said by Philip K. Dick. Now, I just so happen to own an audiobook and the book collected in my library of edition for PKD. And this is a really good science fiction novel. It follows the story of Jason Taverner, who is a very popular TV show host for singing. And he has something like 30 million viewers in the future of a dystopian police state. And he gets in trouble when he goes to visit one of his ex-girlfriends. And she throws this thing called a cuddle sponge at him that starts inserting these tubes into his chest. And he has to take quick action with a bottle of alcohol to kill the cuddle sponge. But he is sent to the hospital where they promise him that everything will be okay in the morning. However, he wakes up in a rundown motel room without any papers. Now, if you're living in a dystopian police state, you definitely want identification papers, but he has none of it. And he quickly learns that no one knows who he is. A man who has 30 million viewers of a very popular TV show. And it gets worse. As he's struggling to find fake ID papers, he learns that he is nowhere in any of the police databases. So all reality has become this great unknown. So that is just quintessential Philip K. Dick in a reality that you do not understand and struggling to find your place in it and survive. And what this book has a lot of is paranoia and drugs. Yeah, paranoia and drugs. It's absolutely a PK Dick novel, and it is a very good one. And I can highly recommend it to anyone who likes science fiction and who likes PKD. At book number 27, I finished The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy. This is the first half of two novels that he's published in 16 years. It's getting mixed reviews in places. And I'm mixed about it too. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details because I want to do a dedicated review video on this book. So I will just cut it kind of short and saying this book is great and it's bad at the same time. Book number 28 is Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. I did this as a group read with Alan and Big Hard Books and Classics and a few other people. And this is an okay Vonnegut novel. It's not going to be his Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And if you've read Galapagos, you know that's a reference inside the novel where Vonnegut, or actually not Vonnegut, Kilgore Trout's son, is talking about people who never amount to anything. And their phrase is, well, he's never going to write Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which is just to say that that person is going to be pretty much a nobody their whole life. And the story of this one is there was a worldwide economic collapse And civilization basically peters away, except for a few people who are on a huge, or supposedly huge, natural tour to the Galapagos Islands. Kind of got canceled as the world went to hell in a handbasket, but a few people remained, and they become humanity in 1 million years. Because this book, as I said, is narrated by the ghost of Kilgore Trout's son, who watches humanity evolve from creatures with big brains into sea mammals without big brains. As I said, not the best of Kurt Vonnegut's novels, but if you like Kurt Vonnegut, you're definitely going to want to read this book eventually. Book number 29, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is probably one of the greatest horror stories ever written. You know the story of Dr. Jekyll, who creates a potion to turn himself into Mr. Hyde. If I'm spoiling something this old and this popular, I'm sorry, but that's the basic story. And it is simply a riveting story of a dual personality and to some extent drug addiction, because the formula that Dr. Jekyll uses becomes highly important to him, and he needs that formula in order to remain human. And this was a reread for me. I've read it probably 2 or 3 times, but I had to reread this. And the reason I had to reread this is that I am reading another book for an in-person book group, which I will review next week, which is an historical novel about the wife of Robert Louis Stevenson. So obviously Robert Louis Stevenson features very heavily in that historical novel. And the author just did a very interesting chapter when she talked about how Stevenson came to write Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and some anecdotes about an earlier version of that novel that was burned. But in any case, still one of the greatest horror stories ever written, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. To end the week, I read The Bad Seed by William March. This is a book published in 1954, and it is about a psychopathic 8-year-old girl. And it's a curious book. It has a very odd writing style. It feels very dated to my 20th century view looking at it. But I actually enjoyed it. It took me back to a different era when people behaved just a little bit differently than they behave now. And it is a story that focuses mostly on the mother, Christine, as she slowly becomes aware that her good little girl may not be all that good at all. And as she's researching what could be wrong with her little girl, she is reminded of something else in her own past, which contributes to the evil that her little girl has become. I did enjoy this. I don't see a lot of people talk about this book anymore. It's very famous. It was turned into a movie that I never saw, but I enjoyed it. And I read it basically in one day, Saturday, just lazing around the couch. It's a good book. So have I been reading other stuff? Yes, I have. I have been working very hard on this, Dangerous Visions, with a group read with David Wiley. And we're trying to read 1 short story a day. And I have to say, as I think I said last week, this is not going all that well. These stories feel very dated. And for the most part, not very dangerous. And this cover fell off my book. This is a paperback book that I bought in the 80s when I was in high school. And I've just gotten around to reading it now. Who knows? Who knows if I'll finish it? I'm very tempted to put the kibosh on this because I'm just not enjoying it. Another book I'm reading is a book that I actually enjoy, but I have not picked up all week. And that is The Brothers Karamazov. And the reason I have not picked it up is that I've just got so much else going on, so much else to read, that I don't think I'm doing this book the justice it deserves in the way that I'm rereading it. I've been trying to reread 25 to 30 pages a day, and I think this book deserves a dedicated reading when I'm not reading anything else but it. So I might put this one aside and pick it up again in 2023 and just read this one. So that is what I have been reading. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.